Let's start with old relationships. Now, I'm not saying you should cut ties with everyone from your past. But if a relationship ended, there was likely a good reason. Going back is like trying to reheat a cold meal. It's never quite the same, is it? Remember, for things to change, you must change. If you go back to an old relationship without personal growth, you're setting yourself up for the same outcome. Is that what you want? I doubt it. The same goes for old towns. Sure, there's comfort in familiarity, but comfort isn't always good for us. It can breed complacency, and let me tell you, complacency is the enemy of progress. When you stay in your comfort zone, you're not challenging yourself. You're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying. It's that simple. Now, let's talk about old jobs. I know it can be tempting to return to a familiar role, especially when times are tough. But ask yourself, why did you leave in the first place? Was it for better opportunities? More growth? A chance to challenge yourself? If you go back, you're potentially giving up on those dreams. You're settling. And let me tell you, settling is a dangerous game. It starts with a job, but before you know it, you're settling in all areas of your life. Think about it. Every time you go back, you're saying no to something new. You're closing the door on potential opportunities. Is that really what you want for your life? Now, I can hear some of you thinking, but Jim, what if I made a mistake? What if the grass wasn't greener on the other side? Well, let me tell you something. Mistakes are part of life. They're how we learn and grow. If you find yourself in a situation that isn't working out, the solution isn't to go back. It's to move forward in a different direction. Remember, there are always more than two choices in life. Think of life as a book. Each chapter represents a different phase, a different relationship, town, or job. Now, would you enjoy a book where the main character keeps going back to the same chapter? Of course not. You want to see progress, growth, new adventures. You are the author of your life story. Don't keep rewriting the same chapters. Create new ones, exciting ones that challenge you and help you grow. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. Change is hard. It's uncomfortable. But that discomfort is where growth happens. It's where you discover what you're truly capable of. Remember, success is not about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it and moving forward. Every experience, good or bad, is a stepping stone to something better if you choose to see it that way. Let's talk about opportunity for a moment. Opportunity doesn't knock on your door while you're sitting comfortably in your old life. It comes when you're out there exploring, taking risks, pushing your boundaries. By going back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're limiting your exposure to new opportunities. You're telling the world, I'm done growing. This is good enough for me. But is it really? Is good enough what you want for your life? I don't think so. You're capable of so much more. You have potential you haven't even tapped into yet. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Jim, what about nostalgia? What about the good memories? Well, let me tell you something about nostalgia. It's a liar. It shows you all the good parts and conveniently forgets the bad. Cherish your memories, absolutely. Learn from your past experiences, definitely. But don't live there. Don't try to recreate something that's already had its time. Instead, focus on creating new memories, new experiences, new successes. That's where the real joy in life comes from. Let's talk about personal growth for a moment. Every time you face a new challenge, you grow. Every time you step out of your comfort zone, you become stronger. Every time you choose the unfamiliar over the familiar, you're investing in yourself. Going back to old relationships, towns, or jobs is like trying to fit into an old pair of shoes. You've outgrown them. They don't fit who you are now or who you're becoming. Think about the person you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Will that person be created by going back to your old life or by pushing forward into new territories? Now, I'm not saying you should constantly be changing everything in your life. There's value in stability too. But there's a difference between stability and stagnation. Stability is about having a strong foundation to grow from. Stagnation is about refusing to grow at all. Let's consider relationships for a moment. Every relationship you've had has taught you something about yourself, about what you want, about how you relate to others. If you go back to an old relationship, you're essentially saying that you haven't learned anything since then. But you have, haven't you? You've grown, you've changed. You've had new experiences that have shaped you. Going back negates all of that growth. The same applies to old towns. Each place you've lived has contributed to who you are, but it's not about the place itself. It's about what that place represented at that time in your life. Maybe it was where you went to college, where you started your first job, where you met your first love. Those experiences were valuable, but they're in the past. You can't recreate them by going back to the same physical location. Instead, take the lessons you learned, the growth you experienced, and apply them to your new adventures. That's how you honor your past while still moving forward. Now, let's talk about jobs. In today's rapidly changing world, going back to an old job could actually be detrimental to your career. Industries evolve, skills become outdated, new technologies emerge. By going back, you might be missing out on crucial developments in your field. You're potentially making yourself less marketable in the long run. Instead of going back, focus on leveraging your past experiences to move into new, more challenging roles. That's how you grow professionally. That's how you increase your value in the job market. Remember, your career is not just about making money. It's about personal fulfillment, about using your skills and talents to make a difference. Can you really do that by going back to a job you've already mastered? Now, I know change can be scary. The unknown is intimidating. But let me ask you this, what's scarier? Taking a risk on something new, or looking back on your life with regret, wondering what if? Every great achievement in history came from people who were willing to step into the unknown, to take risks, to face their fears head on. You have that same potential within you, but you'll never realize it if you keep retreating to the familiar. Think about the greatest adventures in your life so far. Did they come from staying in your comfort zone, or from taking a leap into the unknown? I bet it was the latter. That's because life's greatest rewards often come disguised as challenges, as uncertainties, as risks. Now, I'm not saying you should recklessly abandon everything familiar. That's not wise either. What I'm advocating for is intentional, purposeful forward movement. It's about having the courage to say, this chapter of my life is complete. It's served its purpose. Now it's time for something new. Remember, every ending is also a beginning. When you close the door on an old relationship, town, or job, you're opening the door to new possibilities. But here's the key. You have to be willing to walk through that door, to embrace the uncertainty, to trust in your ability to handle whatever comes next. Because here's the truth. You are more capable than you think. You are stronger than you know. You have resources within you that you haven't even tapped into yet. But you'll never discover these hidden strengths if you keep retreating to the familiar. Growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone, not in its center. Now, let's talk about the concept of evolving versus revolving. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're revolving. You're going in circles, ending up where you started. But life isn't meant to be lived in circles. It's meant to be a journey in evolution. Each experience should take you further along your path, not back to where you've already been. Think about nature for a moment. Does a tree try to go back to being a sapling? Does a butterfly try to return to its cocoon? Of course not. They're always moving forward, always growing, always evolving. You are part of nature too. You're designed for growth, for evolution. Going back goes against your very nature as a human being. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but Jim, what if I've made mistakes? What if I've taken wrong turns? Well, let me tell you something about mistakes and wrong turns. They're not failures, they're feedback. They're valuable information that you can use to make better decisions going forward. Every successful person has made mistakes. Every single one. The difference is they don't let those mistakes define them. They don't use them as an excuse to retreat to the familiar. Instead, they learn from those mistakes. They use them as stepping stones to something better. They understand that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of success. So if you've made mistakes, congratulations, you're on the right track. Now, what are you going to do with those lessons? Are you going to use them as an excuse to go back, or as fuel to move forward? Let's talk about the concept of personal responsibility for a moment. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often abdicating responsibility for your life. You're saying, things were better back then. If I just go back, everything will be okay? But that's not taking responsibility. That's hoping external circumstances will solve your problems. But here's the truth. The quality of your life isn't determined by your circumstances. It's determined by what you do with those circumstances. So instead of trying to recreate old circumstances, focus on creating new ones, better ones. Ones that align with who you are now and who you want to become. Remember, you are the author of your life story. You have the power to write new chapters, to create new adventures, to shape your destiny. But you can't do that if you're constantly flipping back to old chapters, trying to relive past experiences. Now let's talk about the concept of growth versus comfort. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're choosing comfort over growth. And look, I get it. Comfort feels good. It's safe. It's familiar. But comfort is also the enemy of progress. Think about it. Has anything great in your life come from staying comfortable? Or has it come from pushing yourself, from taking risks, from embracing change? I bet it's the latter. Because that's how life works. Growth happens when you're willing to be uncomfortable, to be uncertain, to be challenged. So every time you're tempted to go back to something old and familiar, ask yourself, am I choosing this because it's truly the best option? Or am I choosing it because it's comfortable? If it's the latter, that's a red flag. That's a sign that you're prioritizing short-term comfort over long-term growth. And let me tell you, that's a dangerous trade-off. Because while comfort might feel good in the moment, it leads to stagnation. And stagnation leads to unfulfillment, to regret, to a life half-lived. Now, I'm not saying you should constantly be in a state of discomfort. That's not healthy either. What I'm advocating for is a balance, a willingness to step out of your comfort zone regularly, to embrace new challenges, to push your boundaries. Because that's where the magic happens. That's where you discover what you're truly capable of. That's where you become the person you're meant to be. Let's talk about the concept of identity for a moment. Your identity, who you believe yourself to be, has a huge impact on your choices and actions. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs are often trying to reconnect with an old identity. You're saying, this is who I am, this is what I know. But here's the thing, you're not the same person you were back then. You've grown. You've changed. You've had new experiences that have shaped you. So by going back, you're actually denying your current identity. You're trying to squeeze your evolved self into an old mold that no longer fits. Instead of doing that, why not embrace your new identity? Why not see yourself as someone who's constantly growing, constantly evolving, constantly becoming a better version of yourself? Because that's who you really are. You're not defined by your past relationships, your hometown, or your previous jobs. You're defined by who you choose to be right now in this moment. And every moment is an opportunity to choose growth over stagnation, progress over retreat, evolution over revolution. Now let's talk about the concept of potential for a moment. Each of you has enormous potential within you. Potential for growth, for success, for making a positive impact on the world. But here's the thing about potential, it doesn't realize itself. You have to actively work to fulfill it. And that requires stepping into new territories, embracing new challenges, pushing your boundaries. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're limiting your potential. You're saying, this is good enough, this is all I'm capable of. But is that really true? Of course not. You're capable of so much more than you can even imagine right now. So instead of retreating to the familiar, why not explore the full extent of your potential? Why not see what you're truly capable of? Because I'll tell you this, you're capable of far more than you think. You have strengths and talents that you haven't even discovered yet. But you'll never uncover them if you keep revisiting the same old territories. Let's talk about the concept of life seasons for a moment. Just like nature has seasons, so does your life. And each season serves a purpose. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often trying to recreate a past season. But that season has already served its purpose. It's taught you what it needed to teach you. Now it's time for a new season. A season of growth, of new experiences, of fresh challenges. Remember, you can't plant new seeds in old soil and expect different results. You need fresh ground, new nutrients, different conditions to grow something new. So instead of trying to relive past seasons, focus on making the most of your current season and look forward to the seasons yet to come. Because each new season brings with it new opportunities, new lessons, new chances for growth and success. Now let's talk about the concept of self-respect for a moment. When you consistently go back to old relationships, towns or jobs, you're often compromising your self-respect. You're saying, I don't believe in my ability to create something better. I don't trust myself to handle new challenges. I don't respect my own growth and evolution. But you deserve better than that. You deserve to honor your growth, to respect your journey, to believe in your ability to create a better future. Self-respect isn't about being perfect. It's about acknowledging your worth, believing in your potential, and making choices that align with your highest good. And sometimes the most self-respecting thing you can do is to close the door on the past and step boldly into the future. Let's talk about the concept of legacy for a moment. Each of you has the opportunity to leave a legacy to make a positive impact on the world that outlasts your physical presence. But what kind of legacy are you creating if you're constantly retreating to the past? Are you showing others the power of growth and resilience? Or are you demonstrating fear and stagnation? Remember, your actions don't just affect you. They affect everyone around you. Your children, your friends, your colleagues, they're all watching and learning from your example. So what example do you want to set? Do you want to show them that it's okay to settle for less than you're capable of? Or do you want to demonstrate the power of continuous growth and forward momentum? Because let me tell you, the legacy you leave isn't just about what you achieve. It's about how you live. It's about the choices you make, the courage you demonstrate, the growth you embrace. Now, let's talk about the concept of abundance for a moment. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're operating from a scarcity mindset. You're saying, this is the best I can do. There's nothing better out there for me. But that's not true. The world is full of abundance, of opportunities, of relationships, of experiences. But you can only access that abundance if you're willing to step into new territories. If you're willing to believe that there's more out there for you. Remember, the universe rewards courage. It rewards those who are willing to take risks, to embrace change, to pursue growth. So instead of limiting yourself to what you've already experienced, why not open yourself up to the abundance that's waiting for you? Because I promise you, there's more out there for you than you can even imagine right now. But you have to be willing to go out and find it. Can make to the world. But you can't fulfill that purpose if you're constantly retreating to the past. Your purpose isn't behind you. It's ahead of you, waiting to be discovered and embraced. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're limiting your ability to fulfill your purpose. You're saying, this is all I'm meant for. But that's not true. You're meant for so much more. Your purpose might be to inspire others, to create something innovative, to solve a pressing problem. But you can't do that if you're stuck in the past. Remember, your past experiences have shaped you, but they don't define you. They're stepping stones, not destinations. So instead of going back, use those experiences as fuel to move forward. Use them as lessons to guide you towards your true purpose. Because when you align with your purpose, everything changes. Your work becomes more fulfilling. Your relationships become more meaningful. Your life takes on a new level of significance. But you can't discover your purpose by retreating to the familiar. You discover it by embracing new challenges, by stepping into the unknown, by being willing to grow and evolve. Now let's talk about the concept of personal power. When you consistently go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're giving away your power. You're saying, I can't create something new. I can't handle change. I need the familiar to feel secure. But that's not true. You have immense power within you. The power to create, to change, to grow. Every time you choose to move forward, instead of going back, you're reclaiming that power. You're saying, I am in charge of my life. I create my own destiny. Remember, your power doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from within. From your choices, your attitudes, your willingness to grow. So instead of giving your power away to the past, use it to create a better future. Use it to become the person you're meant to be. Let's talk about the concept of resilience. Life will throw challenges your way. That's inevitable. But resilience isn't about avoiding challenges. It's about how you respond to them. When you go back to old relationships, towns or jobs, you're often trying to avoid challenges. You're choosing the familiar over the unknown. But that's not resilience. Resilience is about facing challenges head on, learning from them, and using them as opportunities for growth. Every time you resist the urge to retreat to the familiar and instead choose to move forward, you're building resilience. You're becoming stronger, more adaptable, more capable of handling whatever life throws your way. Remember, the challenges you face aren't obstacles to your success. They're opportunities to demonstrate your resilience, to show what you're truly capable of. Now, let's talk about the concept of authenticity. Each of you has a unique, authentic self, the truest version of who you are. But that authentic self isn't static. It's constantly evolving, growing, becoming. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often trying to reconnect with an old version of yourself. But that version no longer exists. You've grown beyond it. Being authentic means honoring your growth, embracing your evolution, being true to who you are now, not who you used to be. Remember, authenticity isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about aligning your outer actions with your inner values and aspirations. And sometimes the most authentic thing you can do is to let go of the past and embrace the future. Let's talk about the concept of courage. It takes courage to move forward, to embrace change, to step into the unknown. Going back to the familiar might feel safe, but it doesn't require courage. And without courage, there's no growth, no progress, no achievement. Every time you resist the urge to retreat to the past and instead choose to move forward, you're exercising courage. You're saying, I believe in myself. I trust in my ability to handle new challenges. Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in the face of fear. It's being willing to feel uncomfortable, to face uncertainty, to take risks. And it's through courage that you unlock your true potential, that you become the person you're meant to be. Now let's talk about the concept of vision. Each of you has the power to create a vision for your life, a clear picture of what you achieve, who you want to become. But that vision isn't in the past, it's in the future. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often losing sight of your vision. You're choosing the comfort of the familiar over the excitement of what could be. But a life without vision is a life without direction. It's like trying to reach a destination without a map. So instead of retreating to the past, focus on your vision for the future. What do you want to achieve? Who do you want to become? What kind of life do you want to create? And then make choices that align with that vision, choices that move you forward, not backward. Remember, your vision isn't just about what you want to have. It's about who you want to be. It's about the impact you want to make, the legacy you want to leave. Let's talk about the concept of growth mindset. People with a growth mindset believe that their abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. They see challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. When you consistently go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often operating from a fixed mindset. You're saying, this is all I'm capable of. This is as good as it gets. But that's not true. You have enormous potential for growth and development. Your skills, your knowledge, your capabilities, all of these can be expanded and improved. So instead of retreating to the familiar, embrace a growth mindset. See every new experience as an opportunity to learn, to improve, to become better. Remember, the person you are today is not the person you have to be tomorrow. You have the power to grow, to change, to become more than you are right now. Now let's talk about the concept of self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is your belief in your ability to succeed in specific situations or accomplish a task. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often undermining your self-efficacy. You're saying, I can't handle new challenges. I need the familiar to succeed. But that's not true. You are capable of far more than you give yourself credit for. You have strengths and abilities that you haven't even tapped into yet. Every time you choose to move forward instead of going back, you're building your self-efficacy. You're proving to yourself that you can handle new situations, that you can succeed in unfamiliar territories. Remember, your belief in your abilities has a huge impact on your actual abilities. If you believe you can succeed, you're far more likely to put in the effort and persistence needed to actually succeed. Let's talk about the concept of personal responsibility. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often abdicating responsibility for your life. You're saying, if I just go back to how things were, everything will be okay. But that's not taking responsibility. That's hoping external circumstances will solve your problems. True personal responsibility means recognizing that you are in charge of your life. You are responsible for your choices, your actions, your results. So instead of trying to recreate old circumstances, take responsibility for creating new ones. Better ones. Ones that align with who you are now and who you want to become. Remember, you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the creator of your circumstances. And that creation happens through the choices you make every day. Now let's talk about the concept of adaptability. In today's rapidly changing world, adaptability is more important than ever. When you consistently go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often resisting change. You're choosing the familiar over the new. But that lack of adaptability can be detrimental in the long run. It can leave you ill-equipped to handle new challenges, unprepared for new opportunities. So instead of retreating to the familiar, embrace change. See it as an opportunity to adapt, to grow, to become more versatile and resilient. Remember, it's not the strongest or the most intelligent who survive, but those who are most adaptable to change. Let's talk about the concept of self-actualization. Self-actualization is about realizing your full potential, becoming the best version of yourself. But you can't self-actualize by going back. Self-actualization is a forward-moving process. It's about growth, development, becoming more than you are right now. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often limiting your potential for self-actualization. You're choosing comfort over growth, familiarity over self-realization. So instead of retreating to the past, focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Push your boundaries, explore your potential, strive to become more than you are right now. Remember, self-actualization isn't a destination, it's a journey. And that journey is forward moving, not backward looking. Now, let's talk about the concept of personal evolution. Just like species evolve over time, adapting to new environments and challenges, you too are meant to evolve. But evolution doesn't happen by going back. It happens by moving forward, by adapting to new situations, by growing and changing. When you consistently return to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're resisting your own evolution. You're saying, I don't want to change. I want things to stay the same. But change is inevitable. The question is, will you evolve by choice or by necessity? Choose to evolve. Choose to grow. Choose to become a better version of yourself with each passing day. Remember, the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be better than you were yesterday. Let's talk about the concept of momentum. In physics, momentum is the product of mass and velocity. In life, it's the force that keeps you moving forward. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, your jobs are losing momentum, you're slowing down, sometimes even coming to a complete stop. But success in life requires momentum. It requires consistent forward movement, even if that movement is slow at times. So instead of losing momentum by retreating to the familiar, focus on building and maintaining momentum. Keep moving forward, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. Remember, it's easier to steer a moving car than a stationary one. The same is true in life. As long as you're moving forward, you can adjust your direction. But if you're standing still, you're not going anywhere. Now let's talk about the concept of personal growth. Growth doesn't happen in comfortable, familiar environments. It happens when you're challenged, when you're pushed out of your comfort zone. When you consistently go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often avoiding the discomfort that leads to growth. You're choosing stagnation over development. But personal growth is essential for a fulfilling life. It's what allows you to become more than you are right now, to achieve things you once thought impossible. So embrace the discomfort of new experiences. Welcome the challenges that come with unfamiliar territories. See them as opportunities for growth, not obstacles to be avoided. Remember, the person you become is determined by the challenges you're willing to face. Let's talk about the concept of self-discovery. Each of you has depths that you haven't yet explored, potential that you have tapped into. But you can't discover these new aspects of yourself by retreating to the familiar. Self-discovery happens when you venture into new territories, when you face new challenges, when you open yourself up to new experiences. When you go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often limiting your opportunities for self-discovery. You're saying, I already know who I am. I don't need to explore further. But that's not true. There's always more to discover about yourself, always more to learn, more to explore, more to become. So instead of retreating to the known, embrace the unknown. Be curious about yourself. Explore your interests, your passions, your potential. Remember, the greatest discovery you can make is the discovery of who you truly are and what you're truly capable of. Now, let's talk about the concept of personal standards. Your standards determine the quality of your life. They determine what you'll accept and what you won't, what you'll strive for and what you'll settle for. When you consistently go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often lowering your standards. You're saying, this is good enough. I don't need anything better. But is that really true? Don't you deserve better? Don't you want better? Raising your standards can be uncomfortable. It often means leaving behind what's familiar. But it's also how you create a better life for yourself. So instead of lowering your standards to accommodate the past, raise your standards to create a better future. Expect more from yourself. Demand more from your life. Remember, you don't get what you want in life. You get what you believe you deserve. Let's talk about the concept of personal reinvention. In today's rapidly changing world, the ability to reinvent yourself is crucial. But reinvention doesn't happen by going back. It happens by moving forward, by embracing new identities, new skills, new ways of being. When you consistently return to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often resisting reinvention. You're clinging to old identities, old ways of doing things. But reinvention is how you stay relevant, how you adapt to new circumstances, how you create new opportunities for yourself. So embrace reinvention. Be willing to let go of who you were to become who you can be. Be open to new possibilities, new identities, new ways of living and working. Remember, reinvention isn't about erasing your past. It's about using your past as a foundation to build a better future. Now let's talk about the concept of personal freedom. True freedom isn't about being able to do whatever you want. It's about having the power to create the life you desire. When you consistently go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often limiting your freedom. You're choosing the constraints of the familiar over the possibilities of the unknown. But real freedom comes from having options, from being able to choose your path in life. And you create those options by moving forward, by embracing new experiences, by developing new skills and capabilities. So instead of limiting your freedom by retreating to the past, expand your freedom by moving into the future. Create new options for yourself, develop new skills, explore new possibilities. Remember, freedom isn't given, it's created. And you create it through your choices, your actions, your willingness to grow and change. Let's talk about the concept of personal mastery. Mastery isn't just about being good at something. It's about continuous improvement, about always striving to be better. But you can't achieve mastery by going back. Mastery is a forward-moving process. It's about pushing your boundaries, about constantly challenging yourself to improve. When you consistently return to old relationships, towns, or jobs, or often settling for less than mastery, you're saying, this is good enough. I don't need to improve further. But is that really true? Don't you want to see what you're truly capable of? Don't you want to achieve excellence in your chosen field? So instead of settling for what you've already mastered, strive for new levels of mastery. Push yourself to improve. Challenge yourself to excel. Remember, the path to mastery is never ending. There's always room for improvement, always new heights to reach. Now let's talk about the concept of personal legacy. Your legacy isn't just about what you leave behind when you're gone. It's about the impact you make while you're here. When you consistently go back to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often limiting your potential impact. You're choosing the known over the possible. But your greatest contributions, your most significant impact, might be waiting for you in new territories, in unexplored possibilities. So instead of retreating to the familiar, focus on creating a legacy that matters. Think about the impact you want to make, the lives you want to touch, the changes you want to see in the world. Remember, your legacy is created every day through your choices, your actions, your willingness to grow and contribute. Let's talk about the concept of personal fulfillment. True fulfillment doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from living in alignment with your values, from pursuing your passions, from becoming the best version of yourself. When you consistently return to old relationships, towns, or jobs, you're often seeking fulfillment in the wrong places. You're hoping that familiar external circumstances will bring you the inner fulfillment you're seeking. But that's not how fulfillment works. Fulfillment is an inside job. It comes from personal growth, from overcoming challenges, from living with purpose. So instead of seeking fulfillment in the past, create it in the present. Pursue your passions. Live your values. Strive to become the best version of yourself. Remember, fulfillment isn't found, it's created. And you create it through your choices, your actions, your commitment to personal growth.